genuine years ago and we didn't speak because
For years we haven't spoken.
Oh, no, but we have been.
We do now. No, we know we're now
speaking. When I first met him, I thought he was stuck up, insufferable, and he was already friends with Ruby Wax
Janet,
before you met me.
Janet, as you all know, Janet's very tricky too. I mean,
Reporter, what did you think of Janet then?
I thought she was quite a dangerous vixen, swamp of her own type as well.
I'm going to have that on my gravestone. Your autobiographies, the 2 volumes that you've written so far, are so truthful. And the stuff about your relationship with your parents, and particularly your dad, because in the second one, you take your dad on a pilgrimage. As he's dying, you take him to Lourdes, and it's kind of, you know, you're making up to him for all the things that have happened. It's really moving.
Yeah, it was very lucky to have that, actually, to have some kind... I mean, closure's a horrible word, but to have some kind of closure with parents, particularly when you haven't always got on with them, is it's very lucky for the rest of your life, I think.
Well, it's astonishing, actually, reading about your parents and your mother, who you were very close to, still very close to, but they allowed you to dress as a girl. From a very young age, you wanted to dress as a girl. I don't know if you wanted to be a girl.
Me. My mother was throwing out a tweed skirt once when I was about 5 o'clock. And I was hanging out by the dustbins, and I saw this tweed skirt going in. I thought, that looks rather nice. So I got it out, and I had this climbing frame at the bottom of our garden, and so I rushed off, and I had these lovely black plimsolls too. And I put on the tweed skirt, and I then developed this fantasy that I was actually not my mother's son at all, but Julie Andrews' daughter. And I really did think this. I mean, it became my obsession because I'd just seen Mary Poppins. Julie Andrews was my heroine, and I decided I was her daughter. And really then, when I went to school and I started acting, I played all the girls' parts, and I really did, when I was very young, want to be a girl. I thought like a girl. I'd dress up as a girl whenever I could.
And how did they react to that?
My parents were actually very cool about it. I asked for about my 4th birthday for a cot and a doll. And obviously there was a huge kind of crisis downstairs after the night I kind of flounced up after saying, if I don't get a cot, I'm leaving. And they all decided what to do, and it was very interesting. I got the cot on Christmas Day, and lovely sheets and a little thing, and instead of the doll, I got a gollywog, which was extraordinary. I don't know what was kind of going on in their minds.
I mean, it's extraordinary. We even had those kind of toys.
I know.
Now,
have you still got the gollywog?
Of course, and I still got the cot. They're not by my bed.
Because you caused a bit of controversy recently because you did an interview for a Sunday magazine when you said, you know, I'm glad then that I wasn't allowed to then, you know, be told you can be a girl, Rupert, because you say you kind of grew out of that.
Well, I was forced out of it as well, because I went to a boarding school aged 8 and I was packing the tweed skirt with me, and along with, you know, all the socks and the shoes and the shorts and the grey shirts. And my mum said, I don't think you'll be doing that over there, darling. They don't wear those kind of things there. And I said, well, I'm going to. And they took the skirt out. So I was, in one sense, forced out of it. But then I got straight into cross-dressing at school. And I think people were quite... yes, I think I was very happy because afterwards, when I was 15, I really grew out of... my hormonal balance changed completely. And I didn't then want ever to be a girl again.
So are you saying then that parents now, and we read a lot about stories like this now, people are much more open about it, if your child says at 4 or 5, you know, I believe I'm a boy or a girl, that you shouldn't then medically kind of take them to see counsellors and things to... because
I think counselling and everything, I think everyone has to... you know, it's not for me to give advice to anyone about anything, but I just think that we're obsessed with counsellors and treatments and things like that, and normally things work themselves out. And maybe people... I think we are entering an age where a lot of men are feeling completely different about the way... this is a huge thing that's happening to us in general, which is the demasculisation of the male force thrust in our society. I think it's a huge thing. So I think we have to watch it and really respect it in these kids who are growing up wanting not to be necessarily, all of them, you know, big machos.
Like alpha males.
I think that is all changing, and so this rise in people's early questions is fascinating, and certainly not to be crushed like, you know, might have happened in the old days.
But what about someone like Caitlyn Jenner, someone who has made a journey, if you like to use a cliche, You've made some remarks about Caitlyn.
Oh, right. Well, Caitlyn, the remarks I made about Caitlyn were slightly skewered because the fact is I adore Caitlyn Jenner. I adore the Kardashians, frankly. And I found that the story of Bruce to Caitlyn it's the great American story. There's no novel in America that will ever reach up to it because she's held a mirror up to the whole of America in her story. And the first thing I loved about it and found very touching is that she made the journey on her own. Most guys becoming women, they normally get in with a crowd. That crowd tells them, oh, you do this, do that, and you can go off to a club.
But he, at the time, had to be quite public about it because he
not
was
before,
on a
Not before. That was
TV
only
show.
afterwards. For 15 years before, it had been completely isolated. All he had was when the house was empty, he could whip into Kim's dressing room and try on a few dresses, and then rush, but he had to be secret. So he grew all alone. And what I was saying in the interview with Camille's was, in fact, that what was so amazing, that considering it had all happened in a bubble, that when I Am Caitlyn started, and he went on this amazing kind of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert journey across America, which was incredibly moving, I found, he arrived in San Francisco to discover that the transgender community was actually had a much rougher time than he had, because he'd said in the preceding episode, oh, it's so great, I dress up, I'm having hair and makeup, and he didn't realise what it was actually all about, the harsh reality of growing up or being in the transgender community.
And there's plenty more where that came from. Just click here to watch more interviews with a whole range of famous faces. And click here to subscribe. It's free, so you'd be silly not to, really.